Hey there! Welcome to the Distracted Librarians podcast. We're your friendly neighborhood bookworms with a penchant for all things pop culture.
Picture this as our digital campfire, where we dive into our latest obsessions, analyze our favorite distractions, and rediscover the joy of reading.
Whether you're a media enthusiast, a book lover, or just need a break from the daily grind, you've come to the right spot.
So kick back, relax, and get delightfully distracted with us.
Hey everybody! On this episode of the Distracted Librarians, we are going to talk about our second book club book, Joyride by Susan Orlean. Amanda, thank you for choosing this book. I really enjoyed it.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you guys liked it. Or
Yes.
you did.
Well, we'll get to everybody else.
Okay.
But first, I'm Nicole.
I'm Drew.
I'm Killian.
I'm Amanda.
So doing a memoir, I was like really glad that Amanda got to pick a memoir because I don't read nearly enough memoirs. And I was like, let's do something outside of like my typical. And this was a really wonderful book, I think.
Yeah,
So.
I was really happy that it's a memoir about writing because it's something that I could more quickly relate to. I don't know that I would have been so down to jump into like a scientific memoir or religion, some other topic, but her approach to things made sense to me, and that helped. I like reading fiction books about writers and the craft of writing, and this really played into that well too.
Kind of the same boat. I really, going into it, I was like, I don't know who this person is. I don't have much of a background knowledge here, but, you know, as someone who's done writing myself and very into books and the written word and all of that, it was really interesting to see kind of her process and how that developed over time.
Yeah. I liked to see her process, although I have to say, as someone, I think a lot of us are writers here, right? Myself, Killian, Nicole, maybe Drew. Okay, not
pass.
Drew.
not a skill in the tool belt.
I am a reader and an enthusiastic one. None of her sort of process tips were mind-blowing, unless she maybe isn't like giving away all the tools of the trade. But what I thought was, first of all, I did think she's a beautiful writer, and I wasn't really that aware of her. But I also, and I'm glad to be now. And I really just like look at this memoir and talking about the progression of her career and the different things she's covered. It seems like this time capsule of like American culture, which is super, super cool.
Yeah.
And I just feel she does state that she feels so lucky she got to have this career. And I do feel like stars aligned for her to be able to do this whole thing and hit all those points and be in the right place at the right time. And it's pretty amazing to sort of read through. And I loved reading excerpts of her writing as she told her story, but also of her articles, where it's really cool.
Yeah, I was completely unfamiliar with Susan. I am familiar with some of the films that were made. Adaptation is a film I'm familiar with, have not seen it. But then realizing her influence, of course, as the writer for the book that was adapted into that film, and then being a character in the film is kind of interesting too. I was trying to convince my husband the other day to like sit and watch it, and he's like, I can't believe you haven't seen this. And then we never got around to it, so I'm going to have to do it soon. But yeah.
I have thoughts on that, on adaptation. I rewatched it when reading the memoir, and I remember loving it in 2002. Granted, I graduated in 2002, so I was all of 18, and you know, it was also a certain time, I think, in film you had like adaptation come out, and then like Punch Drunk Love, and these things that were a little bit more experimental. Adaptation was written by Charlie Kaufman, who did Being John Malkovich previous to that, and they're sort of like wacky, quirky, and I feel like that was of the era. I can just tell you, I did not feel like it aged well. Adaptation. However, still watch it if you've never seen it.
Yeah.
But if you've seen it before,
The concept
maybe
is-
just
The
skip it.
concept is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the way she was describing it in this book made me want to watch the movie because it sounded very interesting.
The audacity it takes to say you're going to adapt this book and then struggle so much with adapting this book that you write a screenplay about that struggle.
About your struggle.
And make the author the villain.
Yes.
Is insane. And I love him for it.
Well, I feel like that spawned a bunch of other authors doing the same thing, where they like sort of, maybe it wasn't about them in name, but it was a bit on the nose, like, or indirectly autobiographical, where they sort of tell their story of becoming a writer for the first time within their book. But yeah, we can get back to Joyride.
Let's come back to that. Okay, so clearly this is a memoir, and we kind of talked a little bit about what we know about. Did you know her prior?
I'd read the library book.
You did? Okay.
When it came out, so 2019-ish.
Okay. Which in this book, I wish there was a little bit more about that. I feel like she dove very well into some of the other books that she had written, and she did talk about how her process was for it, but then I feel like I was left on a cliff there, and then it just went into more personal details.
Yeah, her discussion of the library book kind of took place toward the end, and it felt much faster paced than anything else she talked about. And there's part of me that's like, the last couple chapters of this were my favorite part of the book. Earlier parts, I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this book. I'm going to get through this. Those last couple chapters went by in no time at all. And I'm just like, okay, but if they had gone into more, would they have been as interesting and as quick to read, and would I have loved them as much as I did if they had been more drawn out and more detailed? I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
But now I want to read the library book.
I know, so do I. So do I.
Same.
I found myself, first of all, I listened to the audiobook.
So did I.
And it was read by the author. I did have to speed it up a touch because I was just like, all right, let's go, lady. But it was really good. The audiobook was delightful. I do love hearing the voice of the person who wrote it. I just feel like there's something very special there. And, you know, I found myself the stories that she was telling, the books she talked about. I was like, I got to read that now. I kept having that feeling like, I got to check out this article. I got to look at this. What does this guy look like? Especially when she's describing the orchid thief and the fact he has no teeth in his head. I immediately went to work and had to look up and see what he looked like because I needed that person to be like a real person. So there's something very energetic and exciting about the stories that she's writing. They're very interesting.
Yeah, she gave her conceit talking very early about the when she was doing the portrait of the 10-year-old boy, that she likes to write choosing subjects or choosing topics that people don't care about at first and make you care about it by the end. And even in these short chapters, she almost got me there. I probably will not read her other books. But for the sake of the chapters, I was like, oh no, this is I see the interest, I see the appeal.
Drew is going to get this reference, and I don't know, Nicole and Amanda, if you will or not, because I don't know if you've seen the show, but it was very Rory's concrete piece from Gilmore Girls. I was like, that's what she's talking about doing, is taking this in Gilmore Girls, the main character gets assigned writing about the new paving of the school parking lot.
Okay.
Because the editor doesn't want her to have a piece that's going to be any good.
Oh, okay.
And then she writes, she gets major credit for writing this beautiful, evocative piece. As a high school student, I'm like, was it really? But, but it was, the whole concept of Saturday night was fascinating to me because that's the kind of thing that I think about sometimes is like, how do different people experience the same thing? But it's not necessarily something I would have been like, let's write a whole book about.
Yeah.
And just to back up, Susan Orlean's first book was titled Saturday Night, and she she did a series of chapters, and they were sort of all like standalone articles or essays, and they each introduced a Saturday night outing or ritual or event throughout America. So it was this little encapsulation of Saturday night in America. But yeah, I when she first was pitching that idea to someone, I was like, boring.
But I think she has a way of seeing things with almost like a child's eyes in a way.
Yeah.
That's the impression that I got, where that she like truly sees beauty and intrigue in even the smallest things. And that carried throughout the book and really made I think like her life experience so interesting.
Yeah.
So very cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about the beginning of her life, her background, if you will.
Yeah.
She grew up in Shaker Heights, Ohio, and she grew up in a Jewish family. Her father was an attorney and businessman, and her mother was a homemaker who inspired her love of libraries. Isn't that just the best? It's so sweet because like it kind of reminds me of my upbringing a little bit. And here we all are as librarians, right?
I mean, is that a universal theme here? We all like grew up with a family member sort of like taking us to libraries, and it was like okay.
Yeah.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
No, actually, I was always the problem child with returning library books. So primarily with the school library, I actually didn't start going to the public library frequently until I was in middle school, because the local branch of the library was within walking distance of my middle school and was like right between the school and my dance studio.
Okay.
So I would go to school, I'd go to my after school activity, I'd go hang out at the library until it was time for my dance classes.
Oh, okay.
And that carried through till like through high school, where I would spend a little bit more time at the public library. But I didn't end up with I'm going to go into libraries, and libraries are this like super important thing to me until I started getting into college courses.
Okay.
Trying to figure out what I was going to do with my English degree.
Yeah. Yeah.
A very common story as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're a librarian either because you had like a childhood nostalgia, or you're an English major, or
Who's going, I don't want to teach. What am I going to do? And I'm going to take a tiny little step to the side of teaching.
Yep.
Yeah. So her father wanted her to be a lawyer, and she wanted to be a writer. I think that's also a familiar aspect of my life. Not that my dad wanted me to be a lawyer. He just wanted me to do anything but art.
Oh, my dad wanted me to be a lawyer.
My mom thought I would make a great lawyer and thought that was what I should pursue.
Wow. Okay.
I was going to go into STEM fields. I started as a chemistry major.
Nice.
But
I took a semester of paralegal after undergrad because everyone said you argue well, you hold yourself well, you should look into this. And I took half a month of that class and said, I want nothing to do with this.
For a brief moment, I wanted to be a lawyer because I loved Legally Blonde.
Fair.
So I did have that moment in middle school. But looking back, like, I would not be a good lawyer. I should not be a lawyer. That is not a thing I should ever do.
I don't know, law librarian.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're all here
librarian
and,
is a whole thing.
but like that's another
Sure.
route.
Well, what I love about this part of the story is that she was basically like, Dad, just give me 1 year. Just let me have 1 year. And then was just working as hard as she possibly could to try to prove to her father that she was really a writer and had no business doing law.
But then the way that carried through even as a writer, with a lot of like, she's got her contract to turn in her book, and then it's, the number of extensions on those books. I'm just like, I get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and her perfectionism, and
I
she
mean,
always
she pushed
felt
herself.
like she had to prove herself
yeah.
years later, even
Sure.
after like writing multiple books.
Yeah.
Still trying to prove.
Well, and with a few of them, they wouldn't have been the same if she hadn't had that extra time,
Right.
because
Yeah.
she had like these last minute clutch finds
Totally.
that really made the books.
Yeah. So it's interesting that this kind of situation with her father ended up carrying through her entire career. She's probably still, is she still around?
Oh,
Susan
yeah.
Orlean?
Yeah,
Isn't she,
for sure.
She's up there, isn't she?
She's 70.
70.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if she's still,
She
in a
seems
way.
like a young 70 to me.
Yeah.
I've looked her up on Instagram.
Even though her father's gone, I feel like she may still be proving to somebody, to herself, that she's a writer.
Yeah. It's funny because, like, at this point, it's like, how could you not? Like, to me, she ends up being a staff writer at the New Yorker, which to me is like the place for writers to write. And so it's like, how can you be a staff writer at the New Yorker and feel like you have something to prove still?
Sure.
But
yeah. Bestseller, New York Times bestseller that she's put out, and still pushing and pushing and pushing.
What struck me in the last chapter when she's preparing to write this book is when she has to go to a library or museum or something and access the Susan Orlean collection.
Yeah.
Like, at that point, do you not understand you made it?
Here's the thing. I wouldn't. Like, I would still be like, no, that's not real.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my gosh.
Like, I fully got that. I do that all the time with things that I've been doing for a long time. I'm like, yeah, but it's not. Is that really? Is it? So I was like, no, I get this. Like, it can be really hard to see yourself in, like, what you do and see yourself kind of in that way.
Yeah. I mean, she even talks about how she was a writer really from a young age and was doing really well. And it became just the thing that she did. But still, like, this question of, like, whether or not I am that thing. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's why she's so good.
right, she was always driven.
Yeah.
Because of that
Yeah.
need to prove herself by one more article.
Sure. All right. Well, so her career trajectory, man, there's so many things.
So much to say here. So what I do love, if we can just introduce this one character, because I'd love to bring it back.
Are we going
to
to talk about
Peter?
I'm sitting here like, is this where we're going? Is this?
Oh my gosh.
So she followed. I don't think it was Peter. She followed a boyfriend
Yes,
to
it was
Oregon.
another boyfriend.
And then that's what got her to Portland. And then she started working at the Willamette Week, which is a small publication. And then when did she meet Peter? I feel like it was in Portland.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is husband number 1.
Yes.
And she brushed over real quick that they met each other by cheating with each other on their respective partners.
Yes.
That was like
Yes.
a 2-sentence throwaway.
Yeah, and she was like, this will come back later. Just keep in mind that this is what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he becomes a lawyer. He gets a job in Boston.
Yes.
And so they move to Boston, and she works at the Boston Phoenix, Boston Globe. And then they move to New York together. I think mostly for her.
Yes.
It's her
Yes.
turn.
Right.
To then try at New York publications, Vogue, Rolling Stone. She's freelancing. And then I think the big moment for her is when she gets a job at the New Yorker.
Which is what she's kind of always wanted. She talks kind of at length about how much she's always loved the magazine and that she always felt like that was kind of the pinnacle that she was always looking for. So,
And I do just want to shout out to this. I think it's a Netflix documentary, but The New Yorker at 100. It's a documentary that came out, I think, last year. It's excellent.
oh, is it? Okay.
If you are not familiar with The New Yorker and you like want to know why people love it or why it seems snobby, or because it is. And
Which I think she makes a point to
Yeah.
like talk about
Yeah.
how like that attitude is there.
yeah, that I think you will, you can either open the magazine and it'll tell you something, or you could like watch a documentary about the 100 years history of the magazine, and I think that'll tell you a lot more, to be honest. So anyway, it's The New Yorker at 100.
Cool.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
The thing that struck me about a lot of her, especially early career, was how many editors and publishers she went through.
Oh my gosh, what a nightmare.
And almost never by her own reason. Like, some of it was her jumping from job to job at the start, but the bulk of it was just the volatility of the industry in general.
How many different editors and even publishers did she have for Saturday Night? I lost count. I'm just like, what's happening?
I think there was she did like a rundown as like a sort of a comic writing piece of it, and I think there was 12.
And even in that, I'm just like, it's mind-boggling reading it. I can't imagine living it.
No, I would cry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and she was talking about, just how difficult it was dealing with that. And also knowing that the person who initially was like, I've got your back and I'm going to be here to help you with this thing. And they are long gone.
Yeah.
And these people that are coming after that are just there. I mean, she even described one of the editors as just being like he owed somebody a favor.
Yeah.
And he was basically just there because he had to be there to do the thing.
And then that person left, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
And you've got to think that was at least a factor in her imposter syndrome through the whole thing, because she had to prove herself and prove the, like, worthiness of this project a dozen times.
Yeah.
Well, she even talks about going through that at the New Yorker when the editor in chief changes over and having to kind of really justify her writing style.
Is it Tina?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's an interesting character in this story for sure.
And I think the fact that she's going through, Susan's going through all this and doesn't, at least in terms of the memoir, isn't blaming anyone who's like doing this, but is just taking that as more of a drive to succeed and more of a drive to finish what she's been doing.
Yeah.
And stand by the way she does what she does was really admirable.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that I believe it was Tina that basically told her that the way that she writes, the way that Susan writes, is like a disaster waiting to happen. I mean, it's not exactly what she said, but it's kind of like, you're writing about something that's sort of like ephemeral and it could go wrong at any moment. Just from you have this great idea, you start researching it, everything's fine, but you don't have any way of wrapping it up, or you don't have that intrigue that you need to do the whole thing, to complete it, to finish it.
You have to do it right.
Yeah.
And if you don't, it's going to be terrible.
Right. And yet Susan is able to kind of swing it every time. It's kind of wild.
I know. I'm surprised there's not like, oh, and here is a story that fell flat.
Yeah, this is me failing terribly.
Spent months on it.
No, it's always like at the last minute, I got a call from so and so, and I have this treasure trove of information. Who does that? How does that happen?
And obviously, once you're writing a memoir, you're going to edit your life.
Sure.
I'm sure there were moments that things did go wrong.
Yeah.
And
but she's got a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot of work, too.
So do you think she's lucky, or do you think she's hardworking, or do you think we aren't hearing the whole story?
I personally think that it's sort of that skill, and she says that she learned it from her dad. Her dad would just go for a ride on the bus and ride around town and look for an adventure. And I think like her ability to do that, things are just falling in place for her because she has that open-minded, childlike viewpoint of everything that she's writing about. It's so cool.
There's a quote that I pulled from her that was, "It's up to you to create a soft bed for the luck to land in."
Ooh, nice.
That is nice. Yeah.
And that's really what she seemed to exemplify, at least in her own writing of herself, was, yes, things fall into my lap. Yes, I got really lucky with some of these takes, but I was ready for them.
I do appreciate that she also acknowledges the fact that, like, she came into all of it from a place of privilege. Like,
yes,
not everybody's going to come into trying to be a writer in the same way and be able to create that soft bed for luck to land in the same way because of that.
I have to say I was a little sad just because she had all this beautiful writing and the state of journalism right now. And publications.
Oh, yeah.
I just was like, I don't know if we're going to get
any more of
this level of commitment, this level of research, this quality of material. Like I was very sad that there might be a window or a door closing on what she lived and having that possibility.
I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
Crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we have to talk about Peter.
Yes.
One more time. Just because what on earth is going on with these book launches? It's like every single time this woman has a moment where people are celebrating her, he pulls something.
So Saturday night, she has a book launch. And on the day of, and I think she has a book launch party. Yeah. It's going to be at their apartment. Mm-hmm. They're in New York. He tells her that he's cheating on her with someone and has been for some time.
Well, is that the one where he does that? I think
so.
She like caught something, or was that the second one?
The second one was where
she caught it. Okay. All right. Yeah. So he tells her because his girlfriend is going to tell her, I think, is the spiel, right?
Which is also crazy to me because I'm like, who is like the mistress or the person that someone is cheating with and like wants to talk to the wife. I just was like taken aback because that happened in both instances.
It did.
Where they ended up talking and I'm just like, who does this?
Yeah.
I have to think it was some sort of attempt to stake a claim.
Of course.
Because you think about her daily life and how much she travels, how much she is locked in her own cage to write these stories. The mistress was the one who was living Peter's day-to-day life.
Yeah, good
that's
point.
True. Yeah.
But they have the book launch party and Peter's there and she's there and
they're just dealing with each other.
They don't want to have a scene. They don't want to, she's not crying on someone's shoulder. She's just holding it all in. I'm just like, oh,
it's such a nightmare. It is such a nightmare.
You also can't convince me that like the timing of that wasn't
oh my gosh
on his part, like an active choice though.
I think
like you can say that it's the mistress was going to tell her.
Or
but
subconscious.
He, like, whether he knew he was doing it or not, that was to ruin her moment.
Yeah.
That absolutely was.
And it seems like, she does talk about how he just never really supported her when she had big moments, when she found out that she got a book deal, all of those things. It was basically him like sniveling in the corner, like basically upset because she was being successful.
Yeah.
So not really Mr. Supportive to begin with. And then on top of it to pull this stuff.
We got to the second time and I started yelling.
Yeah.
So I think that was with Orchid Thief. Same deal.
Yeah.
Book launch party happening. Mm-hmm. She finds this email and I won't give it all away, but it's pretty crushing.
Pete.
And she has another sort of terrible book launch party.
Yeah. But things turn out well in the end.
Yeah.
She finds love again. And I'm so glad for her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, we are going to have a new book, and it's my turn. So I, being me, chose a horror story.
I'm excited for this.
None of us are
really?
surprised by this.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it was between a horror story and a very weird book. And I asked my coworker, I was like, do I scare the heck out of them or do I just make them feel funny? And she was like, you scare the heck out of them. And I was like, all right, let's do this.
To be fair, this also seems like a very weird book in a good way.
Yes. Okay. So my book will be Bat Eater and the Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker.
I'm excited for this one. I've got a friend who reviewed this and had some good things to say about it. So,
is it youth or adult?
It's adult.
Oh, okay, perfect.
And it is available at the library and on Hoopla in ebook and e-audio.
So. And on Kindle Unlimited for what it's worth.
Okay,
yes.
Nice.
So you should read it with us. It'll be fun. I promise. All right. Well, thanks, everybody, and we will see you next time. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Distracted Librarians.
Many thanks to BCTV for their support in recording, editing, and releasing this podcast, and to the Friends of the Library for sponsoring closed captioning on every episode.
If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to reach out to us at distracted@btpl.org.
Until then, keep those pages turning and those screens lighting up. We'll catch you in the next episode.
The views and opinions expressed in the Distracted Librarians podcast do not necessarily reflect those of Bloomfield Township Public Library, Bloomfield Community Television, the Birmingham Area Cable Board, or its producers or production staff.